Good morning, all. Good morning. I would like to welcome you to this webinar. I hope you are all keeping safe, especially at this time. We again thank you for your time today. My name is Kabiru Muhammad Aliu. I'll be hosting this webinar today. I am the founder of Transform Africa. Again, thank you for your time. I would like to do some introductions. The Learning Space, in partnership with Cypher Learning, presents the webinar in integrating learning management system in everyday learning. This is a very fantastic topic that we're going to be discussing today, as it is very relevant for this time. I would like to make some more introduction of the learning space. The learning space is an unconventional space that is there to accelerate simulated trainings and certifications. The mission really is for Africa to be the best in ICT, innovation, and knowledge transfer. Now, allow me to introduce Cypher Learning. Cypher Learning is the world's best in learning management system, providing learning platform for schools, businesses, and entrepreneurs. Cypher Learning has presence in over 100 countries around the world and headquarters in San Francisco, California. Furthermore, I would like to introduce the presenter for today. Her name is Jeneline Padanal. She is passionate about education. She is currently the director of e-learning integration at Cypher Learning. She has more than 20 years as an education administrator. Jen has presented in many countries, including the United States of America, Australia, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, India, and Philippines. We are honored to have you, Jen. I would like to introduce the distinguished panelists at this point. We have very experienced panelists today, and I'm very excited. We have Dr. Oluwakemi Olurinola. She is an educational technology researcher. She is currently lecturing at a university. She has a Microsoft Innovative Educator Fellowship, which enables educators through Microsoft tools. She is the founder of Equitech Education Technology. And I'm proud to announce that she has a PhD in education technology as well. Now introducing Ms. Chinyere Ogumbi. Ms. Chinyere Ogumbi graduated with a pharmacy degree from University of Jos. She became a certified pharmacist in the state of Texas, United States of America. She obtained a master's degree in education from the University of Roehampton, United Kingdom. She has experience in government, banking, and entrepreneurship. She has a passion for education. She is currently the CEO of Play to Learn. Play to Learn provides educational resources and consultancy services. Thank you and welcome, Ms. Ogumbi. Now introducing the third panelist, Mr. Itodo Samuel Anthony. Mr. Itodo currently teaches chemistry and physics at Gateway Excel College, Otukpa, providing its students with innovation and critical thinking. Mr. Itodo is the founder and executive director of New Frontiers Youth Forum, a community-based leadership organization, and has received a number of awards. Mr. Itodo was the top 50 finalist of the Global Teacher Prize Award in 2018. And in 2018, he won the prestigious The Future Award Africa and University of Sussex Prize in Education. Welcome, Mr. Itodo. And introducing our last panelist, Mr. Kolapo Emmanuel. Mr. Kolapo Emmanuel has over 25 years of education experience. He has worked in top international schools in Nigeria as a teacher, education leader, and manager. Schools include Olashaw International School, Green Springs School, City of Knowledge Academy. He is the Deputy Head, Academy Affairs, Managing Teachers and Curriculum. He is an examiner with the Cambridge International Exam Body. He has a Master's in Business Administration from the University of Ado-Ekiti and is currently studying education leadership at Marconi International University, Miami, Florida. Mr. Kolapo has a passion for technology cutting across Microsoft, various learning management systems, Google. I like to refer to him as a technology expert. Now, just to say a few things before we commence the event for today. We will be having a Q&A session at the end of this webinar. This webinar is scheduled to last for 1 hour, 15 minutes. At this juncture, I would like to call on Ms. Jane to present. Thank you. I will just stop sharing my screen at this point so that Ms. Jane can begin her presentation.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon to all of you. It's a pleasure to be here. Let me just start sharing my content. Okay. Please let me know if you can see my screen. That's perfect. All right. So once again, good afternoon to all of you. It's a pleasure to be here in the presence also of fellow amazing educators. I believe Dr. Oliver Lola and me have met before in MIE. We're both MIEE. So it's a pleasure to see you again, ma'am. I'm Jen, by the way, and I'm also an educator from the Philippines, and I also work for Cypher Learning as the Global E-Learning Integration Director. And I'd like to share with you this afternoon how a learning management system has helped me as an educator in the school where I'm teaching survived amidst the pandemic that we are experiencing right now. Because, you know, we're only halfway in 2020, and yet we are seeing a lot of challenging times already for the whole world. And we know that when disasters like the one that's experiencing right now hits us, the most badly affected most of the time are the schools and the classes. And when classes are suspended because of these natural disasters, we know that that's already a one-day loss in learning for our students. As mentioned, I am an educator in the from the Philippines also, and the Philippines is kind of like a little bit of a disaster-prone country. We are blessed with natural disasters like typhoon, earthquake, volcanic eruption, monsoon rain, and even severe flooding. And when all of this disaster hits us, most of the time, or all of the time, classes are suspended. And when classes are suspended, we are required to do makeup classes for the lost instructions with extra times of school days for students that sometimes, or more often than not, are done on Saturdays and weekends when they are supposed to be spending this with their family. Now, these are some of the challenges when we are rescheduling classes. The teacher must find and organize a common schedule. After finding a common schedule, they need to find a classroom. And then after finding a classroom, the next challenge is getting everyone to attend the makeup class. So these are the challenges of having to do a makeup class when there are disruptions or cancellations of classes because of these natural disasters or untoward incident. That's why I'm also advocating, a strong advocate of disaster-proof education. So disaster-proof education is a proactive measure that makes teaching and learning continue amidst calamities, whether that's natural or man-made calamities. It is also a measure that allows us to avoid taking extra days for makeup classes. And what helped me as an educator to further advocate for a disaster-proof education and to further advocate for a continuous teaching and learning for our children, for our students, is a learning management system. We use a lot of different digital tools for teaching and learning, but learning management system is a tool that allows me as an educator to create and deliver content that can be easily accessed by my students. It also allows me to monitor my student engagement and participation, assess their knowledge and track their performance even outside of the four walls of the classroom. I coupled it with the right tool, the right pedagogy, and the right content, and then that's a perfect formula for disaster-proof education. And as mentioned, Neo LMS, it's a learning management system that's helping me in my everyday learning. It helps my student to collaborate safely with each other, increase engagement. We have a very, very rich analytics. It allows me to do assessments for my students, and it allows my students to have access to lesson anytime, anywhere. Now, please allow me to do a live demo for you on the learning management system that I am using. I will again share my screen. All right. So this is how Neo LMS looks like. So this is how I'm using it. I would like to share with you the courses that I am teaching. So when you log in as a teacher in Neo LMS, you'll be directed to a home page first. And in the home page, you'll get to see newsfeed. It depends on what is assigned as a landing page by your LMS administrator. Now, I will go inside the course that I am teaching, just so you can see how I configure it in my class. So in my class, when the moment my students gets inside my class, they would see a weekly announcement in the welcome page. So I do this so that my students are reminded of all of the activities that they need to do for the week. So I do a weekly announcement. Aside from that, Neo LMS also allows me to organize my lessons in such a way that it's easily accessible to my student anytime, anywhere. So this is how my lesson looks like. I am teaching in the College of Business Administration, and my students are also working students. And this learning management system, Neo LMS, has helped them a lot to still participate in my class, even if they are working students. So let me just show you one of my course here, or one of the lessons in my class. So I can structure, in terms of instructional design, I can structure my lessons in such a way that they can see a hierarchy of the topics. And then in that lesson, you will also see that I have some activities that they will do after they've read the lessons that I have prepared for them. One of the things also that I like about the LMS, it's capability for me to continue assessing my students, okay, even if they're outside of the classroom. So we have 14 types of different assessment that you can give, even group assessments. And my students are doing this outside of the classroom. Even if they're not inside the classroom together, they can do group work, right? And one of the things also that I like about the learning management system that I'm doing, which helps me a lot as an educator right now, and especially now that we are going to be doing a lot of online classes, you see this in the right part of the screen, that's the one that says activity. Right now, I can see the live activity that's happening in my class right now. So there's a student who's logged in right now, and I can see the live activity that's going on, that's being viewed by that student right now. So right now, he's viewing one of the sections, getting started, and he's also viewed an assessment, a discussion forum. So this is also one way for me to track how my students are engaging in my class. Aside from that, as an educator, one of the things that's probably taking up so much of our time is computing the grades. But with Neo LMS, I can use the grade book that automatically computes the grade of my students the moment that I have input all of their grades. What's good about the gradebook that we have is it also has instant analytics that allows me to see how my students, my entire class, is performing at a glance. So this is presented in a graphical way. So you can see from here, this is also color coded, and it allows me to see which activities my students has let's just say, hard time accomplishing. And this serves also not just an evaluation for my students, but also a self-evaluation for me as a teacher. Because if I see that in one of my activities, 2 or 3 of my activities, my students are having a hard time, I can always go back to that activity, ask my students what difficulties they've encountered, and I can always help them out so that they can perform better in that activity next time that I give it to them. Aside from that, we also have individual analytics. So if I want to see how my students or individual students individually performing, or how much they have completed in my class based on the activity that I have prepared for them, I can always go to their individual analytics and look at it in a graphical way. So I can see that this student, she has 3 assessments or assignment that she has not submitted. So that's also a big help for me as an instructor. Aside from that, I can also see my students' performance, okay, all of them. Also, those students who have already completed the course, I can see who those students are and how they have performed in my class. So I have an analytics here of their performance. So this shows me their progress in the course. Aside from that, if I want to look at the other activities that they have done in my class, for example, from the very beginning, from the very uh, start of the semester that they've logged into my class, okay, I can see all of the activities that they have done. Also, competency-based learning is being supported by Neo LMS. So we can configure the school's competency or the school standards in Neo LMS, and it allows us to see how my students are performing based on skills or competencies that I want them to develop in my class. And if I see that 1 or 2 of my students are falling behind any competencies, okay, it allows me to develop an early intervention for them. And that early intervention doesn't have to be always a manually done intervention for my students. So the system, because it has a lot of automation rules, allows me to create automated actions, okay, that will be performed by the platform when they sense or at a certain condition. So for example, in this competency, if my student, I can set that if my students fall behind certain percentage in the competency, okay, I can add an automated action on what I want the system to do. So the system, I can hide some lessons to them. I can open the lessons for remedial class, or maybe a lesson that will help them catch up and move up. Or I can enroll them in a course that will help them also catch up and move up. I can hide some difficult assessment to them and open easier assessment that will help also them catch up and move up to my lessons. So in a way, this is catering to the different types of learning style of the students. So it's kind of like an if then else uh, platform. So adaptive learning for me is kind of like playing a snake and ladder board game. So there are times when the students can move forward faster, and there are times when we need to get the students to go back certain topics or lessons to just help them catch up. So that's one good thing about our learning management system. So this is, and this all of these are done automatically. That also helps us teacher somehow minimize those things and activities that we do repeatedly. So we don't have to really like do it manually every now and then. So this is very important to me as an educator because it helps me track how my students are progressing in my class. And then I can easily help them catch up and move up in my course. Aside from that, this learning outcomes that we have also has its own analytics. So if I click on one of the learning outcomes here, it shows me an analytics on what lessons are being taught in this competency or teaching this competency. Okay. I can also see the assessments assessing this competency. The rating distribution per competency is also being calculated instantly and automatically by the platform. And if I want to see how my students are performing based on these learning outcomes, I'll just click and go back to learning outcomes and see how they're performing. So this is easy for me as a teacher and also easy for the parents. Neo LMS also has the capability to give parents an account so that they can track how their children are performing in their class. They can even see the attendance. By the way, speaking of attendance, we also have an attendance feature where I can check my students' attendance. So you can always add an attendance here, okay, in your class and check the students' attendance. Aside from the attendance feature, we also have a capability to schedule web conferencing either via Zoom or MS Teams. So I'll just go to my calendar. If I want to have a live session in my class, I'll just schedule a virtual conferencing with them. And then over here, we have an integration with MS Teams. I'll just click MS Teams, and this allows me now to create my MS Teams meetings. The same with Zoom meetings. So now here it will ask me to sign in to my Microsoft account. After I sign into my Microsoft account, I will now be allowed to choose a date and time for my meeting instantly, and my students will be able to see that meeting. So let me show you an example of that in one of my courses here. So if I go to the calendar, you see here, this is a scheduled virtual class with my students. Okay, so this is the link of that virtual class. There are also times when I ask my students to RSVP in my class. So I can see who said yes, they will attend. And I can see the list of those students who said yes, they will attend to that virtual class. So all of this is allowing me as an educator to continuously teach and learn, even if I am outside of the four walls of my classroom, without shortchanging my students. This allows me to keep track of the progress of my students. This allows me to also communicate to my students regularly. And having a learning management system that is so dynamic also allows me to use other tools, okay, other digital tools that's integrated or can be integrated in the platform. I use Flipgrid for my class. I also use OneNote for my class because that's also integrated in the platform. I use Sway. I know Dr. Orinola is very familiar with Sway. So I can embed, my students can embed Sway in the platform. I can also embed Sway in my class. So it's making uh, me use other tools seamlessly within the platform. So this is showing us that the platform is very dynamic, and it is also something that can help us with our everyday teaching and learning activities, even if we're not inside our classroom. But please be reminded that these are tools that will help us even do more and be more for our students. The critical part is still with us educators. What we put in the platform, the content that we put in the platform is very, very critical to the learnings of our students. This is not the end all. Any digital tool is not the end all and be all of everything, but these are great tools which will help us cope with whatever situations we are into, and will help us continuously teach and learn. This is also not meant to replace us teachers. This is meant to help us, help our students be prepared for the future. Please remember also that our students, your sons and your daughters, will be part of a highly technological economy. There are a lot of uh, companies right now who are also doing e-learning, e-training, even gamification for their employees are being done now by the different companies. And they're using a learning management system for that. I remember a student who work in a, my former student who works in a bank asked me one time if I know new LMS because she's saying that it's being evaluated by their company and being considered to be one of their LMS for employee engagement. And one of the things also that probably will help in that engagement is when you gamify your course. So you can gamify also your classes in Neo LMS. For example, here, okay, you will see that I have my students who are in the leaderboard over here. So I can award points and badges. instantly or automatically. Even certificates, I can award certificates automatically using Neo LMS. Aside from that, before I forget and before I end my presentation, as a teacher, you will also have your own dashboard, okay, which gives you a very rich analytics of what's going on in your class. So I have here, okay, instant analytics widgets of reports, how many students are active in my class, how many lessons I have, how many assessments I have already created, the grades of my students, even the news feed I can see from here, how many teams and groups I have created, and the learning outcomes results are also being seen in the dashboard of a teacher. So this is a tool that really helps me a lot as an instructor, as an educator. There's a lot of features that you can use in the platform. It's just that we don't have enough time to showcase that. But if you want to learn more about Neo LMS, you can always connect with our partner, the Learning Space, so we can show you more of the features of the platform and how it can help your school continuously teach and learn. And more importantly, how we can redefine teaching and learning in your own or in our own university. So with that, I hope that I am able to share some valuable insights to you on how a learning management system can help us in our everyday teaching and learning. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening.
Thank you very much, Jane. Really appreciate your time. And I think this is very valuable in the sense that you covered a number of things. You cover analytics, business intelligence, behavior, went into descriptive, showing how you could use the data to get descriptive information, and also how you can begin to then use the data to prescribe and also to predict how to improve, on learners' experiences. So thank you very much. We will now be going into the Q&A session, right, shortly, where we would begin to engage the panelists. So thank you very much, Jane. I would just start preparing now for the panelist discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Swiftly, we would allow for Q&A. Please begin to, if you have any questions, please begin to type it on the Q&A section of this webinar. We will do our best possible to answer those questions as soon as the panelist discussions are over. I would just like to summarize by saying, in learning, you would teach, and in teaching, you would learn, as quoted by Phil Collins. I think this is very powerful. Every day I learn, and I believe that the majority of the people on the call as well are also learning or picking one or two things that could actually make a difference in their respective area. Thank you very much. So moving on to the panelist discussion, we have a question here that I would like to direct to Dr. Oluwakemi, right, to answer. So the question reads, what would you suggest from an educator perspective as content for deployment to learners by teachers on the learning management platform? Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So the question for me this morning is what I would suggest for an educator's perspective as content when you want to deploy content for learners on a learning management system. And we knew that the way we deploy content for online engagements, it's different from the way we prepare our content for the face-to-face engagement. So there are some things you need to consider. For instance, you ask yourself, what is the core? What's the core of this content? What do I want to pass across? That it just ask yourself, if I have like 10 to 15 minutes to share this content, what would I want to pass across with that time limit? So it helps you to streamline exactly what you want the students to be living away with at the end of the engagement. So the content management down into small bits like frames or multiple small segments, you state clearly what the objective is for that particular engagement, for that particular content frame. And then we should also strive for simplicity, because we know that as against the face-to-face interactions where you could have your students raise their hands and say, "Ma, please, I don't understand what you just said," and such may not be possible for some of the during this kind of engagements with the learning management system. So you need to strive for clarity as you prepare your content. Also, you need to use other medias, other kind of media like audio, video formats to help to engage your students, so that your content is not static. Unlike when you just write notes on the boards and ask them to copy notes and all that, you have interactive contents. So using other form of media to help content to be more interactive and not static. And also frequently test for understanding. So that's why we said I would propose that your contents are broken into small segments, and after every segment, you have the objective for that segment, and then test continually for understanding, either by short polls, by short quizzes, and also let there be an immediate feedback of their response, so they know, okay, am I really getting on this content? Do I need to go back to revise it and understand what I need to do? So those are the things I would suggest that as an educator, from an educator's perspective for a learning management system, when we develop contents or we provide content on the learning management system, we should have that in mind. Small segments, simplicity and clarity, engage media, and frequently test for understanding. Thank you.
Yeah, very much, Dr. Student. In your opinion,
All right. Good morning,
evaluate
everybody.
this?
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Mohammed, and thank you, everybody, the panelists and everybody watching us. Yes, for learning management system, some of the features I would want everybody to look at for, or that those things that are important in learning management system are, one, the ease of use. The system must be very easy to use, because if it's too difficult to use, the users may be confused about it. Second thing is about integration. For any learning management system, as Jenny rightly put it, you should be able to integrate it with other third-party software, like she was sharing. The new LMS she shared with us with different things, OneNote and some other things. So the features is that one should be able to use that along with other. So integration is very key. The third one, which is what I consider to be the most important, is about content management. One should be content very, very well on an LMS. Like Dr. Olurola rightly said, you should be able to have something to see, something to hear, and something to do, collaboration and all of that. They are very, very essential. And that should be a key feature in any learning management system. Then as the world is progressing, you should be able to carry your knowledge anywhere you go. That's why I feel that any LMS should be able to support mobile learning, different gadgets, different maybe on the laptop, on the cell phone. You should be able to carry your knowledge wherever you go. Another thing I want to see on any LMS is that it must have a testing and assessment module. Because as an educator, when you teach or you educate your children, you must be able to test and assess that they understand exactly what you were trying to say. So there must be a feature of that LMS about testing and assessment. When you have done that testing and assessment, there must be a feature on it to act as a reporting or tracker, because you need to be able to report. Jenny was showing us the other time how many assignments was submitted, and anybody who doesn't submit assignment, the information can be relayed back to the parents of that student. So reporting part and the tracking part must be there. It's an essential feature on any LMS. And very importantly, this feature of security is very key on any learning management system, because you want to believe that your data is safe. You want to believe that you can sign on and nobody can hijack your information, and nobody can block you, nobody can impersonate you. So security is key and must be one of the features of any learning management system. Then another thing is that you should be able to customize and brand your LMS. I could see what Jenny was trying to show us. I could see the logo of our institution, and I could see that she could customize most of the things to her use. And there was even a particular platform that was dedicated to her, and every other person was linked to her. So in that case, one of the features is customization and branding. And to round it off, in this mobile world, you should be able to even integrate e-commerce into it, where you put a payment gateway. So it's possible that you have students all over the world attending your courses and lessons, and they pay from wherever they are. So e-commerce is another important feature of an LMS, according to what I have to put forward. Now, how do we now compare the learning management system and the physical or the orthodox type of learning? If I have to do a contrasting thing, is that the major thing there is about social learning, because you don't just only learn, you should be able to interact, you should be able to collaborate. But when you see face-to-face, the feelings, the emotion, is different from when you are online. So in that case, one will score face-to-face learning better. But on the other way, when you look at holding your data, going back to what you have learned, and you'll be able to revise all what you have learned, LMS will score better than when you have face-to-face learning. I think I have to stop here. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much for that. We really appreciate the response. I will now be directing this question now to Ms. Ogumbi. This question reads: How important are security features in the consideration of a learning management system? Thank you.
Security features in the consideration of a learning management system. Usually when an institution subscribes to a learning management system, it's understood that you agree based on what your perceived needs are as an institution and what your values represent. But there are some specific things that you should look out for in terms of security, so that you're asking the right questions, and at the end of the day, you're getting the right product. The first thing is you must protect your intellectual property. Jen talked about uploading content. This means that you come up with your content. There's a curriculum that guides that content, but the way you come up, the way you present, the way you put forward that content is uniquely and solely yours. And after a while, there's a collation of all these different items of intellectual property, and it's very important that you're able to conserve and preserve that, so that nobody can just walk in, hack into your system and take that away. So that's one thing you need to talk about very importantly, is how do I protect my intellectual property? Another thing is data protection. One of the major advantages of this kind of learning is that massive amounts of data collected for research, for all kinds of things. And In fact, sometimes a lot of companies will pay to get this data. This data belongs to you. And this data also constitutes of people's private information. So you want to be careful, and you want to, give people the comfort that, that is also protected. So that's another conversation you must have about your LMS provider. Another thing is that I'm talking about, talk about schools now that are like maybe entry level schools. You have minors, you have children. The laws on children's safety and protection are very stringent in a lot of countries. So you don't want a situation where somebody can come into your system and have access to the children's pictures, have access to their data, because so that's another consideration that you should also communicate. So the major thing is that the major issues with with security is cyber theft and hackers. You want to control content. You want to protect yourself. So those are the conversations that you should have, in terms of security features. And the technical aspects of it are things that you agree with your provider. It's just to say, these are the things that I'm concerned about. These are some of the things that I'm concerned about. And then they'll come up with a security feature that suits your institution. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ms. Ogumbi, for that. I think that is well put, because security is everyone's concern. And in the world we are now, it is important that we continue to take our security quite seriously. I'll now be moving now to question number 4, which is for Mr. Itodo. So as an educator, what challenges do you foresee with the deployment of a learning management system, and how can we tackle these challenges? Thank you.
Okay, hello. With you guys. So I'm a teacher, underserved, of where you find the most underserved schools. I am for doing LMS in schools. The primary challenge is that of we clearly can see that LMS requires the use of digital tools like laptops, Android phones, and so for instance, just 2 teachers have personal laptops. And there are several students as well who, if going to deploy this system in my school, will need access to these digital devices. Several of my students do not have even Android phones. So for us, this is going to be a major challenge. And I believe this is a challenge that cuts across several schools and several communities in Nigeria. The second challenge that I see is the our teachers, if you agree with me, especially as their basic phones, same of use technology. We see the LMS requires basic level in our schools, especially in primary schools, do not have these skills. So this is going to be a huge challenge. Especially in rural areas, don't have that piece of technology like students in the state, for instance, will have. So while we are thinking of deploying content on LMS, we need to consider the skills that they need to be able to access the facilities to put on this LMS system. Therefore, subject to access to technology is that of the challenge of availability of data. Data is relatively expensive. I use maybe 5,000 data every month. I don't know. In the rural area where I teach, many teachers earn below 20,000 naira. So imagine if you have to use on an LMS, and that is for teachers. There is also the challenge for students as well to have access to data. So this is to consider as well. LMS is going to involve a lot of reading on the part of the student, reading digital information, watching stuff and many comprehension skills. So comprehension skills might be a huge challenge. This is something that you cannot really find, or it's not brought to the fore when you have in-person instruction. Teacher can use several languages, several illustrations in order to pass information across. Many students will not be able to just read information you typed on the screen and then comprehend it. So we need to think of deploying LMS also requires that teachers have to be very innovative in the kind of content that they put online, especially with respect to comprehension. So you are going to, as a teacher, you should be to put your content in a manner that looks as realistic as possible to real life interaction. So your language and other stuff, not everybody is able to simulate that real life experience. Why is the sector is we need to have a place in place where the technology is made mandatory across schools. So school, because we are in this particular position now because COVID has brought this to the fore. However, in everyday learning, we should be using educational technology in our schools. So the government should make it a policy to deploy some educational technology as part of everyday learning. Then, of course, they need to provide adequate teacher training. Teacher training and student is something that we need to do. The government can also, with maybe providers of this technology, have some kind of incentive for teachers to be able to afford them. Teachers in rural areas, for instance, teachers in schools that earn really, really poor salaries will not be able to get laptops. So if the government, working with these providers of technological tools, can come up with some kind of incentive where teachers maybe buy laptops at half the price or maybe pay for access to tech. Finally, with respect to ICT skills, I think we need to pay more attention to our computer science classes from our schools. Get familiar to know this. With respect to this, SaaS providers to have use strictly for students on certain sites, for instance, where they can get access to digital tools. Students can have like subsidized data. Teachers can also have data given to them at subsidized rate, or students can have some kind of quota of data given to them by these service providers. So the issue of access to online tools will be eradicated or limited. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. So moving on to the next question, right? Quickly, this is going to go to Dr. Kemi. What standard does learning management system need to meet from an education sector's perspective?
Okay, thank you. What standards from does the LMS need from an education sector's perspective? A lot has been said, like even from the presentation, we've seen how the new learning management system runs. When my other colleague was talking about the futures, he talked about things like ease of use and all that. So these are the things that some of the things we need to look at, because for instance, ease of use, you don't want to first start having to do extensive training for the teacher or the student who is going to be using the LMS. It has to be something that is intuitive and friendly to use by the teachers and the students also. So that's one of the standards that has been mentioned before, ease of use. Then one other thing is what kind of learning model does it afford? Are we looking at full the e-learning, pure e-learning, or are we looking at the blended learning module, or are you going to be having instructor-led training sessions? So all those you consider from an educator's perspective, because depending on what the need is for the institution, if you're just interested in conducting trainings or giving access to content for your employees or your students to just go in and learn on their own self and leave, then there might be some things that you will not consider. But if you really want to have a full education experience, then things like grading, reporting, analytics, like I've been mentioned previously, those are the things that are standards that we should consider. How do we go about that using this LMS system? And then another thing that we may want to consider is how robust is it for integration, like they mentioned? Do I have to have this LMS and still need other tools? I know have multiple tools I have to integrate into it to make it effective for my institution or my school. If I can get a LMS that will help me do everything in one space without having to look for other tools to integrate into it, I think that's another standard that we need to look at. And then does it support easy creation of content? Yes. Do I need a specialist, or do I need a content editor to put my content on the LMS, or is it something I, as an educator, can just sit back? I know what I want to do. I've set my objectives, and I can build my content easily. We also need to look at the social learning aspect of it. Does it create rooms for students to share their experiences with one another, or does it allow for social learning? Because that's another very important factor as an educator, or for an education sector, because we don't want the boredom of one-on-one, just I alone there. And then, okay, then again, does it allow for you to create specialized learning paths, individualized learning paths? Can you put those contents in a way that you can create learning paths, and can those learning paths be individualized to students, or can it be shared across groups and all that? So there are some things that are specific for the education sector, because like we said, I would like to know that learning management systems are used by all forms of sectors, the corporate sector and all that. But for the education sector, there are some things we need to really focus on: the social learning, the ease of content creation, course management, and the rest. What kind of learning model are we going to be using? Will it afford for live sessions or live meetings, like has been shared previously? And then, does it support mobile learning? I'm going to use our own case scenario. Does it support mobile learning? Does the system support mobile learning? Can I, with my tablet or my phone, also have the same experience using this LMS as people who will be using their laptops? Because we also know the challenge, like I've been mentioned, of access to technology. So does it support mobile learning? So I guess adding this to all that has been said before during the presentation, and when we talked about the futures of the LMS, once we have this considered and we are able to say, okay, yes, then you know that this is a LMS that meets the need of the education sector. So ease of use, content management, mobile friendly, room for students to share their learning experience, the social learning aspect there, yes, and then being able to create learning paths, all that. So those are the things that we need to consider. And of course, the grading, reporting of such analytics of our students. So that's important for us as an educator when we're considering LMS use. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. We are almost closer to the end of our panelist discussion. For the 3 more questions coming up, I will just ask for the panelists to take 1 minute each to answer. So, Mr. Kolapo, this question goes to you. What basic skills do users of a LMS need to possess? Thank you.
Okay, thank you one more time. Yes, for an admin person, let me quickly break it down. For an LMS, there are 2 groups of people. The first group are the admin, people who set it up. And users are educators, students, and other people who are integrated into it. But I want to speak from the perspective of the admin. Okay. Basically, I would say that for an admin or an administrator of an LMS, 2 basic skills are very essential. The first one is the people skill. The person must be able to know how to work with people, how to relate with people, how to understand people, how to see the end from the beginning, so to say. So if he begins to ask for data, if he begins to ask for different things, we'll be able to understand with people. Because if one is doing a particular project and you don't understand with people, it won't be successful. The other side is the technical skill. There are different technical skills that an admin of an LMS should possess. The first one of them is that of data entry and software skill. An LMS admin must know how to migrate data, how to upload new things, and how to use software's features to the team's advantage. They must have experience with enrolling new person, users, students, teachers, or any other person in the organization. So data entry skill and software skills are very mandatory. The second one on the technical skill is project management, because if someone is deploying LMS into a particular organization or in school, it's a project. It's a big project, and therefore, and LMS must know or must be very conversant with the effective communication and the teamwork skill in other people. I must be able to lead other group of people to a particular destination where he wants them or where she wants them to go. So it's like a project manager, and therefore he must be able to assign tasks, must be able to track progress, he must be able to handle other people requests and all of that. That is what I mean by project management skill. Then he must be able to troubleshoot, because if information comes to him that, oh, I have this problem, we have that problem, an admin must be able to troubleshoot very quickly and put into order what has gone wrong. So majorly, an admin is a troubleshooter. And finally, an admin must have analytical skill. What I mean by that is that he must be able to be creative with his reasoning. I must be able to be careful with his evaluation. So an admin should be able to work, should be able to look at situation from every angle, not just one angle. It shouldn't be myopic. Then he should be able to find best approach into solving people's problem. In that case, I think he's going to be successful in his or her work. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Kalapo. Thanks very much. The question 7 goes to Mr. Itodo. You got 1 minute to just summarize this question and response. How has COVID-19 impacted conventional classrooms? Thank you.
When I walked into my office to have this webinar, and I mean my lab where I teach, and the whole place looked like a ghost town. So for me, this is the most obvious impact of COVID-19. Our students are out of our classrooms. Across the world, over 1.75 million students are out of classrooms, and this has basically truncated the educational experience for students. I recall when we asked our students to go home March because of the pandemic, and several of them accepted. This is a new strand. Obviously, there is the issue of fatigue as well. Students are tired at home. This is more important for our final year students who have been left in a limbo. Many of them just have to continue reading, not even knowing when they are going to write their WAEC. Is the issue of mental health. I like to think myself as a very strong person as pushed through this pandemic, because basically I have nothing to do because my school is entirely so doing basically business of uselessness to me as a teacher, and then that affects my mental health. And finally, another very important is that of the financial situation of teachers. The conventional classroom where nobody is paying fees anymore. Was actually able to pay. Such across several schools in this country have not been paid since March. That is how many months running. So take a minute and imagine the conditions of teachers across this country because they've been opting only conventional classrooms. While your counterparts who have access to digital and online tools are still of serious importance to me. So this, for me, these are some of the ways that COVID-19 has impacted conventional classrooms in some extent drastically. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, and thanks for your passion around the plight of Right. So for the final panelist question, this is going to go towards Ms. Ogumbi. What are the future prospects in Nigeria for learning management system? How can we tweak the Nigerian education narrative with respect to technology in education to mirror that of the rest of the world? Thanks.
Nigeria is peculiar in e-learning is not new. In fact, it goes back way back as far as 1804. You know, that was when we had the first recorded digital correspondence learning experience happened. My personal experience is 10 years ago, about 10, 12 years ago, I was a mother with 5 children. I just relocated. I just come back from the States and I had from school. I had no teaching experience whatsoever. And my struggle was lack of resources to teach the Nigerian curriculum. So what I leaned in on was things that were around, things that were available on the internet, resources that were available to me. So when we're talking about the rest of the world in e-learning, they've gone very, very far. Look at us now. We're doing the digital, we're doing online learning to the best of our ability. We're trying to get students plugged in. We're trying to get teachers plugged in. But Nigeria, the education narrative, in fact, the whole Nigerian narrative is different. Future prospects, just like everywhere in the world, e-learning will give us the ability to surmount learning beyond the confines of time and space. E-learning will give us an alternative to education that is not as expensive, but is very rich, you understand, and will help us grow. But because of the issues that we have in Nigeria, Mr. Itodo outlined them beautifully, you understand. No hardware tools, data is expensive, ICT skills and enhancement and acquisition is really, low. So these are the things that will make it seem as if there'll be a law. Most of the advancement now in e-learning is from personal contributors. Mr. Itodo still pointed it out. He had to invest. I'm sure he has had to invest in his own growth and experience. He has to invest his money in data and all of that. So it makes it a little difficult. Also looking at the economic situation. But the truth is that if we look at the advantages and we look at the disadvantages, then we'll understand that that tweak is necessary. What we need to look at is how do we bring that experience within the confines of what we are struggling in Nigeria. So for me, any learning management system provider now should look at ways to localize the system. So I come into your school and I plug in an LMS. We should be able to find a way for you to use that system without data or with limited data. That's one tweak that is very important. Another thing that we need to do is ways to invest more in hardware, to encourage the government to invest more in hardware, because the truth is that in all developed countries where e-learning is established, government's investment is huge. You understand? But it is when we change the narrative, when we start talking about what is important to us in education, then maybe government can sit up and take notice and realize that, okay, these are the areas where we need investments in. Okay, now the rest of the world is light years ahead. What we're really essentially playing is a catch-up game. What I'm saying is that if every one of us decides on their own that, okay, this is something worth looking into, this is a totally different way, this is a totally different way for students to experience, to learn, to be like a child in the United States, for example. You're in high school here and your child can compete effectively with a child in high school over, is to look at this and take it as importantly as it should be. I'm sorry, this is an aspect I'm very, very passionate about. So education and technology, now COVID has shown us and things around the world have shown us that it is something that we cannot avoid. So I'm suggesting and I'm praying that with this, even we parents will look at it, we users will look at it, we educators will look at it and give it the importance that it needs. And that way, able to effectively play the catch-up game. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Ms. Ogumbi. You would agree with me that all the panelists are very passionate about this issue, and the issue around how LMS can benefit everyday learning, the issue around access to technology, access to hardware. I think as well, it's a very, very important issue that we continue to deliberate on and find practical ways of this issue. So I think this is fantastic so far, and I know that beyond this webinar, we'll be able to take the conversations more, either from we being a solution provider, the educators, and the ecosystem. So I'm now going to be moving into the Q&A sessions now. Ms. Jane, this question is for you, right? Just to help us with this question, I'm going to ask it in two forms. How do we get the learning management app? And then the second one is, this has been amazing. Can this be applied as a management tool to manage multiple teams in a corporate environment? Thank you, Jane.
Okay, so the first one is how you get, how do you set up the LMS? Well, the first step is you can easily set this up actually in less than 5 minutes. You'll have your LMS set up. You can go to neolms.com and sign up for a free trial. After that, the LMS is already ready for use. Sometimes I call the LMS like a cloth that's ready to wear. It's like an RTW that when you go to our site, neolms.com, just click sign up for a free plan. We have a free plan, by the way. Mr. Itodo is still here. There's a free plan for students, 400 students that you can use also for your students there. And then after that, just sign up and it's ready to use. And the other question is, can you repeat the second question?
Okay, so the question was around corporates. Can corporate use the LMS to manage their employees and teams? Yes. All
right. Okay. So for corporates, we also have a platform that's called Matrix. It's similar to Neo LMS. So with that, we have a lot of users also from banking institutions, from manufacturing companies. So we have like a great mix also of corporate clients. So we have a feature in the platform that's called Teams that allows you to create teams that mimics the hierarchy of your organization and allows you to create different activities also for those teams, manage their training, and even the unit manager can actually enroll their subordinates to a certain course. So there's a lot of features also that can be used for managing teams within a business organization. We can also show that to you in a different session if needed. But the way that our current clients or current users of the platform is using it in the corporate world is that they mostly use Teams for corporate trainings, okay, for employee trainings. And then that's also how they can manage all of the materials that they need for their trainings. So that and more features that we have.
Thank you very much, Jane, for that. Also, I mean, on the local ground as well, anyone that requires the help in setting up their LMS, we are ready to also assist from a setup perspective, and also from a education perspective as well. If you need to train on the LMS and how to use it. So I would like to, I don't know if is there on the call. I would just like to ask Kingsley a specific question, which is just a build up of what we have been treating before. What do you generally think about LMS post COVID-19? So I just want to just get another perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mohammed. COVID-19 has actually taught the world that so many things, both learning and other life activities, can actually go virtual and still work near effectively, if not very much more effective. It has been done physically. LMS post COVID-19 will actually bring another a more interesting dimension to learning. Like in school, like in the classroom, things that there are things that are in the LMS and on some LMS systems, like the new LMS that are actually obtainable in the classroom. There are others that are not. So it will actually bring a lot of varieties to learning and more interesting things that will interest learners and make learning much more fun than it used to be. Also, we cannot also overemphasize the need of another interesting thing about the LMS, like knowledge of ICT that it brings to the fore. For instance, during my university days, I had a roommate who was studying electronics engineering. Yes, I want to lay emphasis on the course of study, electronics engineering. But this person doesn't know how to use a laptop effectively. Short, doesn't know how to make use of a laptop to acquire some or to perform some basic exercises, some basic things. So I believe that the LMS is a nice thing because when it's used in our school, people will actually be more informed, more computer compliant, and be able to, have this, ICT knowledge that is the that what is considered as the basics in our generation. So the LMS will make students to have this knowledge by the practice. I know learning is much more effective experience, and this is what the LMS has got to offer. So aside from the being tech service
Okay. Hi Kingsley. Okay. I'm just going to move on. Thank you very much for that. At some point, I think you were not so audible. Thank you very much. So I would like now to invite the panelists, right, just to give a 30 seconds closing remark and any advices for 30 seconds. So I would like to call on, first of all, Mr. Kolapo. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mohammed. To close it up or to wrap it up, online learning is the new way to go because post-COVID-19, I know that the narratives are going to change because we are going to have what I call a hybrid learning type of education, where we are going to have some education in our four-wall classroom and other part is going to be online. The earlier Nigerian population or educators go towards the direction, the better. Because if we don't, we are going to be left behind. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'll call on Mr. Itodo for a 30-second feedback. Thank you. You're not, Mr. Itodo, we're not.
He said, it is for us that cannot go back to education with the mentality of business as usual. Something has given. So he has taught us that
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. You still got about 20 seconds.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Thank you.
has taught us that we cannot do business as so something to adapt our education system to best practices across the board so that we will not be limited by space and time, like some mentioned earlier. So there are several challenges that we need to address post-COVID for e-learning to be applicable and tenable in Nigeria. The government has to do a lot of investment, create a lot of incentive for the introduction of technology across board. Segregated implementation of technology where big schools have the means use these tools, while schools that do not have the means lag behind.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Itodo. Okay, thank you, Mr. Itodo. So I will now be giving the next 30 seconds to Dr. Kemi.
Okay, first and foremost, for everyone who has joined here, I want to say we need to own this drive for the change of the narrative where the education sector is concerned. I know we have the tendency to want to look up to the government, but we all can create the change that we so desire in the sector from our own little community. And that's every stakeholder that is involved in the education sector has a major part to play to change the Nigerian narrative where use of technology is concerned. Organizing this webinar, attending this webinar is one step in the right direction. So let's own this. Let's take it as a responsibility to do whatever we can individually as a corporation, as a corporate body, or the institutions we're involved in to see how we can bring this change to now scaffold to become a national impact. But we all need to own this drive to change the narrative where the Nigerian education sector is concerned.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you. I would now call on Ms. Ogumbi just to give us a 30 minutes remark. Thank you. 30 seconds remark.
Okay, thank you so much. A lot has been said. I just also want to harp on that a lot more of the work is on teachers. We educators have to really up our game because you must invest in yourself. You must develop yourself. You must read and read and read because learning is now totally different. It's no longer stand in front of the classroom and tell the students or reel out notes. There are different ways to teach. There are different teaching methods, and we have to make ourselves avail of ourselves of all of what is going on in terms of trends. I also agree with the others, Dr. Kemi, who said that the private sector investment is also important. If we wait for the government can only do so much, but we must have a system where even the private sector is asked to come and invest in the growth of the education sector in the country. Now, what e-learning is going to do is open up opportunities, make it endless. There are so many things that are not as robust as they should be now. Homeschooling is an option. Public school is an option. This is a way to revamp all of these sectors and give our children the best, equip our children to compete in the world. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Ms. Ogumbi. Thank you very much, Jane. Thank you, Cypher Learning, for honoring this webinar. We really appreciate your time. Thank you, Dr. Oluwakemi Olurinola. Thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Ms. Chinyere Ogumbi, for your time. Thank you, Mr. Itodo. Thank you very much for your time. And also thank you, Mr. Kolapo. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We will be sharing the recording with everyone that has registered for the event. We would also be posting some of these feeds on our Facebook page and LinkedIn page. Please continue to follow us. Also, we would also encourage that if you have any questions that have not been answered, we will try and our best as possible to answer it post this webinar. Thank you very much for your time and have a good day. Thank you for attending.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.